Shabbat Shalom. We're starting on this Daf Tefillah here.
Soft and strong, a voice from within, a song of peace in the wind. Holy, 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 holy. May the darkness within disappear, like the faith that you're always near, like a mountain born from the sea, the spark of God within me. Holy, 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 holy,
Shabbat Shalom. Wonderful to see your faces, and thank you to everybody who's joining us online. We're so grateful that you're part of our community. I just got back from a few days in Israel. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later, but one of the great experiences of being there last week was getting to go to Congregation Kol HaNeshama, where many of us who've been to Jerusalem, rabbinical students, cantorial students, people who've spent a lot of time there have probably visited Kol HaNeshama, and it was just so wonderful to see people who are really important to us. Got to see Rabbi Michael Marmer and Rabbi Nama Kelman and so many others, Rabbi Oded Mazor, and it was just great to see people. And what it reminds me of is just how important synagogue communities are and can be. And you know that. I'm literally preaching to the choir, but we get so much out of those relationships. When we see someone come back to us, it feels great. There's someone that we haven't seen in a while and we reconnect. It just fills us with a sense of hope. So before we continue our service, I actually want to ask you to just say Shabbat Shalom to the people around you. If you're joining from home, put a Shabbat Shalom in the chat. Welcome each other to community. One of the ways we bring Shabbat in is by lighting our Shabbat candles. I'll invite you to join us on page 2. And Debbie's going to come light our candles. Please rise and please light your candles at home right along with us as we bring in the joy and the beauty and the warmth of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddishanu v'mitzvotav וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
We're going to continue. You can be seated. We're going to continue on page 16 with one of the Psalms of the Sabbath day, Psalm 29.
Welcome Shabbat. Officially, page 20, Lachadodi, another melody that comes to us from Tel Aviv.
Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shabor v'sachor b'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, Hashem u'letiferet v'litehila. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat
Kadosh Mikedem Nesucha Sof Maaseh B'machshava Techila Lechadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lechadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Boiv Shalom Ateret Vala Gam B'simcha Uv'tzola Toch Emunei Am Segula Boi Chala Lechadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lechadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela. Page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, invite you to rise. Our call to worship is on page 28.
La
The prayer that concludes with Hama'ariv Aravim is a prayer reaffirming God as ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the season and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. In other words, it's God who brings order to the universe. The second verse of the Torah describes our world as tohu vavohu, or astonishingly empty. And from this chaos, God creates a world of order. Chaos is unsettling, and we're at a moment of chaos, and it's unsettling. And like God, good people want to create order. We want to form light from darkness. That's a Jewish message for today and always. And alongside God, we work towards those goals. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity, and may we work together as your partner in unison, in one voice.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. Sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. Sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
bottom of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Please join me. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. The Micha Mocha, page 40.
Page 42, Hashkivenu, our evening prayer, concludes with beautiful blessing for Jerusalem. We ask God to spread over us the Sukkot Shalom, for us and all Israel, for Al Yerushalayim, and for our capital, a city whose name has the word peace in it. Let's join together in this prayer for peace and well-being.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom, V'ha'amitenu Shomrenu L'chaim.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Ve'ha'amidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Frost aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufrost aleinu sukat shlomecha. Page 57. Excuse me, page 253. We're going to
have a special prayer of healing tonight. Familiar melody, but Rabbi's going to share some special names. 253.
So before we offer our Misha Baruch for Refuah, we're going to read the names of some of the hostages who are being held in Gaza now. It's a horrifying list. There's more than 200 names on it, and there are others that are suspected to be held in captivity, but it has not been confirmed yet. But we have a list of the confirmed names, and it's over 200 of them. And we're going to read just the names of the children 18 and under. Kfir Bibas, 9 months old. Aviv Katz Asher, 2 years old. Abigail Idan, 3 years old. Emma Konio, 3 years old. Yuli Konio, 3 years old. Gani Yahel Shoham, 3 years old. Ariel Bibas, 4 years old. Oria Brodich, 4 years old. Raz Katz Asher, 4 years old. Amelia Aloni, 5 years old.
Yuval Broduch, 8 years old. Nave Shoham, 8 years old. Ella Eliakim, 8.5 years old. Tal Goldstein Almog, 9 years old. Zachary Ohad Munder, 9 years old. Ofri Broduch, 10 years old. Yuval Engel, 11 years old. Gal Goldstein Almog, 11 years old. Noam Avigdori, 12 years old. Erez Calderon, 12 years old.
Eitan Yachalomi, 12 years old. Alma Or, 13 years old. Hila Rotem Shoshani, 13 years old. Yagil Yaakov, 13 years old. Daphna Eliakim, 14 years old. Sachar Calderon, 16 years old. Amit Shani, 16 years old. Ofer Engel, 17 years old. Agam Goldstein Olmog, 17 years old. Mia Lemberg, 17 years old.
Noam Or, 17. Or Yaakov, 17. Liri Albag, 18. Mika Engel, 18. Liam Or, 18. Itai Regev, 18. And Noga Weiss, 18. We think of those who were abducted. We think of the thousands of people who were injured in the attacks of October 7th. And of course, we also think of loved ones closer to home. If you want to say the name of a loved one, you can do that now. If you want to add a name to put into our chat, you can do that now. You can, of course, think of your own self, because we've all experienced tremendous pain and trauma over these last 4 weeks. And we deserve healing too. We'll offer a Misha Berach L'Refuah for everyone who's in need of healing. Again, page 253.
Mikor habracha le'imotenu, may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessings, and let us say, Amen. Yishevera imotenu, mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Our Amida prayer, our silent prayer, gives us the opportunity to offer words of gratitude to God for the blessings in our lives, and also to ask God for some of the most worthy wishes of our hearts. You can find the words of Amida. They begin on page 48, and they continue all the way to page 62. I'll ask you, as you're able to, please rise. If you're joining from home, feel free to join us by standing as well, and take a few moments to give thanks for those blessings and to ask God for what we need most in our world. A few moments for silent meditation. Our Ritzei prayer can be found on page 57, and it's part of our Amida. And in its original context, it talks about finding a way to get back to Yerushalayim, back to Jerusalem, so that we can once again offer prayers and sacrifices to God at a time when we weren't allowed to do that. But now we're thinking about how we can get those we love back to Jerusalem, back to Israel, from wherever they are. They should be free to come home. Ritzei.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu B'Amecha Yisrael U'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel U'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael amecha El karov lechol korav penei el avodecha b'choneinu shfoch ruchacha aleinu ותחזינה עינינו לשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו עם ישראל חי.
Shabbat Shalom. The best part of my visit to Israel was being together with my people, friends and family, and strangers too. At moments like this, there is a palpable sense of achdut, a feeling of unity and oneness, togetherness. I experienced it even before I departed on my journey for Israel. On the way, I stopped in New York for a conference that I had helped plan months ago. We ended up changing it to sort of an online experience, but I went to New York anyway to see my daughters and a few friends. And I found out that the day before I was supposed to leave for Israel, there was going to be a large gathering outside of the United Nations to support families of those who had been abducted, who were coming to speak at the UN, including Rachel and John Poland Goldberg, friends of ours from our time in Jerusalem. So hundreds of us came out to advocate on behalf of the more than 200 Israelis and others who've been abducted by Hamas, demanding, as we chanted, to bring them home now. I felt that sense of achdut, that sense of togetherness, when I was asked to bring 5 huge suitcases full of supplies for soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces, including headlamps and portable cell phone chargers, knee pads, hydration backpacks, and even, as I'll explain a little bit later, body armor. I felt this sense of achdut, this sense of togetherness, most keenly at the Hamalim that I visited. You might not be familiar with that word Hamal. It's an abbreviation in Hebrew that stands for Cheder Milchama. And they have set up all over Israel these Hamal Ezrachi, this kind of like a civilian situation room or a civilian war room, places where people can bring donations from baby strollers to cribs to diapers, clothing for families who've been displaced from their homes from both the south and the north. And it's also in a place where people come just to strategize and think about different ways that people can be supported. All over Israel, I felt this extraordinary desire to help, to contribute, to support. I visited one of these war rooms in a Bedouin village called Segev Shalom. And you should know that among the more than 1,400 people who were murdered on October 7th, there were Jews, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, Druze, Bedouin, people of different nationalities, including Americans, Russians, Thais, Filipinos. There were many Bedouin killed and injured in the south on October 7th, including soldiers who serve in the IDF. We also visited a hamal that was in a large conference room at the Royal Beach Hotel in Tel Aviv. This is one of the places where evacuees from the south have been brought. The particular people who were in the Royal Beach Hotel had come from Nativ HaAsara, one of the communities, actually the community that's closest to the Gaza border. And they had been relocated there, and in their pain, in their mourning, they came together to organize their own communal response to care for one another. I felt it, as I mentioned at the beginning of the service, so powerfully when I went to the synagogue where I was a member for many years, Kehilat Kol HaNeshama. Last Friday night, actually, services were held in the basement of the synagogue so that if in case there was a red alert, an air raid siren that was going to go off in the middle, they wouldn't have to run downstairs. So we just had our prayers right there. And my friends and other people in the community didn't know that I was coming. And so as people noticed that I was there, one by one, they came over to give me a hug and express their gratitude that I had come, and I was feeling the exact same way in return. But it means so much to know that you're not alone, to know that there are people who worry for you and care for you and think of you and pray for you. And that's why it's so important for you to keep reaching out. You don't necessarily have to jump on a plane and go there, but you can certainly pick up the phone. You can certainly write that email and send that text and just make sure that those people know that you're thinking about them each and every day. And what was really powerful and interesting is how this goes both ways. Because again and again on my visit, people express their concern for us here in America because they're reading about what we're experiencing. And they know that the horrendous uptick in anti-Semitism in our country, they're reading about what's happening and seeing pictures of what's happening on college campuses. And so my Israeli friends kept wanting to know, how are your daughters doing in school? How's Jacqueline doing? How is everybody holding up? How's your congregation? How is everyone? And it was just so beautiful that in their moment of need, they were worried about us. And you know, so often we experience these difficult moments, whether in the diaspora or in Israel, but very rarely, I can't think of any experiences where we have gone through it simultaneously at the exact same time. What Israelis are experiencing, the horror that they are experiencing, and the fear that we are experiencing, the anxiety that we're experiencing both in witnessing what happened in Israel, but also wondering about our own place in this country, and I know that's true for Jews around the world. We're going through this at the very same time. But what's beautiful is we're also, this desire to help one another and support one another, that's happening at the same time. The outpouring of support throughout Israel and throughout the diaspora, certainly including our own congregation, is truly inspiring. And here's just one story of how the Jewish community is coming together to help support one another. The day before I was going to leave for Israel, you saw all those bags that I took with me. 3 of those bags I got in New York through a connection right here at Stephen Weiss Temple. But the day before I was supposed to go, my niece reached out to me, and she had been studying in Israel on a Fulbright scholarship from the beginning of the school year, and the program's on hiatus. You should know that every single university in Israel right now, classes are not happening because the majority of the students have been called up to the Army. So university classes are not happening at all. So a lot of graduate students and others left the country temporarily while this is going on. So my niece reached out and said that a friend of hers from her program wanted to know if her cousin could be in touch with me, see if I could take something to Israel for them. And so I said, well, of course, I'm at my bag limit, but I'll just pay to have another bag. So I got in touch with this woman, Naomi, and she told me on the text, she said, can you bring some ceramic plates to Israel for me? And you might be thinking what I was thinking in that moment too, which is now is not exactly the time to be bringing dishes to Israel. But I figured it couldn't be that. It had to mean something else. So I ended up talking to her on the phone, and it turns out that body armor is made of a special kind of ceramic that can provide protection. God forbid you're shot at. So because so many people were called up to reserve duty, the IDF didn't have enough of certain supplies. And in fact, one of the challenges I learned is that more than 100% of the people called up for reserve duty has reported, how is that possible? I'm not great at math or statistics, but that doesn't seem to make sense at all. And here's what makes sense, how can help you make sense of it. Many Israelis who were not called up for reserve duty showed up for reserve duty. So not only did almost everybody who was called up, they get a special notice called the Tzav Shmone, which means you need to come now. Drop everything you're doing and come up. So people came from overseas. People flew back to Israel from wherever they were in the world to fulfill their Tzav Shmone. But then a bunch of other people showed up as well, including my wife Jacqueline's former boss, Yitzchak Sokolov, who is 69 years old. He put on his army uniform, and he drove his Jeep to Sderot in the south, and he said, I can drive, and you always need drivers to schlep people around. I'm here. Including my friend Adi's father, who I hope you can see right behind me, who's in his mid-70s. He put on his army uniform, and he went back to duty at his community in Efrat to protect the community there. So that was just a side note about why there wasn't enough equipment, because everybody's coming back to serve. So this woman, Naomi, who I was in contact with, asked me to bring in these ceramic plates, this body armor, and it was not a really obvious story how the body armor got to me. And it ended up ultimately in the vest. Actually, I brought in 12 plates, so that's enough for 6 vests. So it ended up in the vest of 6 IDF soldiers. So her brother is in the reserves, and because of this massive call-up, he didn't have body armor. So then she sent, this was a few weeks ago, she sent the body armor to him. And then he said, hey, there's some other guys in my unit who also don't have body armor. Can you help them up? And before you know it, Naomi and some of her friends have set up a nonprofit, and they are raising funds to buy all sorts of important equipment for IDF soldiers. And over the last few weeks, using this network that they've set up, they've delivered 124 sets of body armor and 112 Kevlar helmets. So she knows what she's doing. She's got this down, and she lets me know that there's going to be, these plates are going to be delivered to my mother-in-law's apartment where I'm staying, and then I can put it in these bags, and I'll take it to Israel. So the plates that she found, the best armor plates in America, are manufactured of course, in Detroit. So she's figured out a way to get the plates from Detroit to New York because there's a friend in the network who's willing to drive from New York to Detroit, pick up all the plates, and drive back because that's the fastest, cheapest way to get them. So he does that. The plates come to me. I jam them in all these bags, and I bring them to Israel. I had kind of a challenging time getting them through customs in Israel, but that's another story for another day. But think of all the ingenuity and all the different people helping one another so that this could happen for these soldiers in need. And this is the embodiment, the absolute embodiment of a value that I'm feeling so deeply now. And I think it's the value that's really driving all of this, a sense of arevut. And I want to talk a little bit about that word. The Hebrew word arevut comes from the root ayin, resh, bet. And I just want to explore some of the meanings of that word because, again, I think it's instructive, and I also think it's inspiring and uplifting, and we need that uplift right now. So to be an arev for another, that's the first use of the term I want to share with you tonight, is to be a guarantor. And it works exactly as you would imagine if you're signing a lease and you need someone to guarantee that if you can't make the payment, they'll make the payment for you. That person is an arev. And it's used in the Bible. It's used in modern Hebrew as well. The broader value that's animating it all in Hebrew is called arevut, which I already mentioned, which is a sense of obligation or responsibility for the other. Someone who's connected to us in some way and that ultimately has sort of a claim on us. They certainly, and that we act out that claim, that sense of arevut, in the way we treat one another. There's another meaning that I think is really interesting. That same word can mean to mix things up. To mix things up and kind of pull them together. And that Hebrew word, a mixture of this type, is called an irbuv. And think about all those different stories I already told you and how much those stories really exemplify that mixture. I mean, that's who we are as a people, a mixture of different cultures and experiences, different opinions and personalities. It's beautiful. And it's sometimes maddening, but if you're in Jewish community, you know it's never boring. And we have this shared history, and we have shared stories, and we have a shared destiny. And all of this is part of that big, beautiful irbuv, this mixture. And there's one more nuance of the word that I especially love. That same Hebrew root, ayin, resh, bet, can mean to make something pleasant or sweet, something that you would enjoy. And as I was looking at this earlier today, I saw in one of the dictionaries that there's a theory that the reason that root, ayin, resh, bet, can mean something pleasant is because if you mix things together just right, if you mix them together perfectly, it's pleasant. And of course, if it's not mixed together right, it can be the opposite. But think of a great cocktail. We could all use one of those right now. Think of a great, delicious dish. The way the ingredients come together, that mixture can make it pleasant and perfect. And a people can be that beautiful mixture too. Just the right amount of all these different components. And it's something that I think is so beautiful about the Jewish people, whose whole is considerably better than the sum of its parts. And those parts are pretty great too. But when you put it all together, it's extraordinary. And I saw this so clearly when I visited each of those chamals that I was talking about earlier, those situation rooms. At the main chamal in Tel Aviv, where I spent a couple of hours and then came back actually a few days later, I was so excited about the place. When I got there with my friend Jeff, they put us on box duty. We were responsible for taking these cardboard boxes and then cellophane tape and putting them together. And Jeff actually noticed that I gotta be honest, I don't want to brag, but he noticed I was pretty good at it. And I said, well, the reason is because I used to work for my grandfather in his vitamin store, and that was one of my jobs, was making the boxes and then filling the little containers with the vitamins and then putting the cap on the vitamins and putting all the vitamin bottles in the box and then delivering them. So I was pretty good at box duty. And we were at this for about 45 minutes, and I started to think about who it was that had decided to come and volunteer that day. Everyone was a volunteer. So in our little box group, we had an American rabbi, a tour guide and educator, a director of marketing, and a retired tech entrepreneur. And as I started talking to him, I was like, so what did you do in tech? And he was like, artificial intelligence. And I said, and that prepared all of us for making boxes today. And within about 10 minutes, we had it dialed in. We'd sort of perfected it. We had an assembly line going. And then there was another crew just about 20 yards away, and they were taking bags and bags of donated goods, sorting them, and then putting them into the appropriate boxes. The main Hamal, this one in Tel Aviv that I mentioned, is at the Expo Center in Tel Aviv, which is in Ganei Yehoshua, not too far from the train station by the university, if you've been to that part of Tel Aviv. And they put all of the boxing and all the different dividing of all the materials that have been donated down at the bottom floor of a parking garage, which made a lot of sense for a couple of reasons. One is you could drive your car in and drop things off. They could bring vans in and trucks, and they could pick up these boxes. It's also safe so that if the air raid siren goes off, all the volunteers are already downstairs. And we're down there, and it's just amazing the work that was going on. And there was a place to donate supplies for the IDF. There was a place to donate strollers and cribs and car seats and diapers and everything you can imagine. And I was reflecting on it, and there was a powerful and rather dark comparison that came to mind. And then I mentioned this to Jeff, and it was one of those moments where we were both like, whoa. So here we were, a few floors underground, doing beautiful, holy work. We were sorting donations to help people who've been displaced, Israelis, residents of Israel, guests of Israel, anyone in need, Jews and non-Jews alike. And then it just hit me that about 50 miles south of where we were doing this holy work, there's another underground complex in the heart of Gaza. And there were people who were doing the most unholy work imaginable. They had come together for acts of pure evil, planning acts of terror, as we said and we saw earlier, acts of terror that affected babies, children, whole families. A place where innocents were being held. As we were doing this work, innocents were being held in this other place. But I also found some comfort in this comparison, because I realized that there is a type of transcendent holiness that can come in this irbuv of ours, in this holy mixture, this beautiful mixture of the Jewish people. And there's strength that comes out of this irbuv, and there's beauty and grace and love as well. And even in these difficult times, and perhaps maybe even especially in these difficult times, I find something so beautiful and so, it's not enjoyment. It's not that kind of use of that word, ayin resh bet, but there's something perfect about that mixture that brings me a sense of comfort. We are in the most challenging, painful, and possibly most bewildering moment that the Jewish people has experienced, at least in my lifetime. The hatred, the evil, the anti-Semitism, the apathy, the voices who would attempt to make the victim into the perpetrator, it's almost too much to hold. And actually, let me just amend that last statement. It is too much to hold. What we are experiencing right now, what we are witnessing right now, is too much for any of us. And that's why there's so much trauma that we're experiencing and that our loved ones in Israel are experiencing as well. It's too much for an individual. But for us as a community, as a people, we have proven that we can hold anything. We are resilient enough to endure anything. We are brave enough and we are strong enough, if we face this terrible moment together, to get to the other side. Now, October 7th, almost exactly 4 weeks ago, was Simchat Torah, the day on which we complete our reading of the first 5 books of Torah, and then we begin again. And as we conclude our reading, traditionally we say, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. And one way that this was once described to me by one of my teachers is that the first chazak, which means strong, that's saying chazak, I'm strong. And then we say it again, we say chazak, you're strong too. V'nitchazek, and we will strengthen each other. I'll take my strength and your strength, and together we will be stronger still. And it's so beautiful. It's so perfect for this moment. It's so necessary for this moment. And this is why we've endured for so long and will continue to endure no matter the challenge. Everywhere in Israel today, there are signs, big banners that say what the banner at the entrance of our synagogue says, B'yachad ninatseach. And literally, you see it everywhere. One thing that my friend Jeff pointed out to me is we were driving through Tel Aviv, and there are these digital signs that tell you how many parking spaces there are in the parking garages nearby. Tel Aviv is famous for not having enough parking. And so it'll say, this lot has 22 spaces and this lot has 18 spaces. And when we were driving around Tel Aviv, it didn't say the spaces anymore. It just said, B'yachad ninatseach. All the digital signs said, B'yachad ninatseach. So what does that mean? Together, B'yachad ninatseach, we will be victorious. And it doesn't just mean in this war. It means together, we will be victorious. Somehow we will prevail. And we have, as President Biden, quoting Prime Minister Golda Meir, reminded us, we have no other choice. So we better get busy with that work. It's our collective responsibility to make sure that our beautiful people, all mixed together, gets through this. B'yachad ninatseach, Am Yisrael Chai.
The bottom of page 258. Please join me in a prayer for our country. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. And there's a prayer for the state of Israel that you'll find either was handed out to you or in the pews. Please join me. Avinu Shabbat, we ask you to bless the state of Israel, whose founding continues to inspire us with its promise of freedom, justice, equality, and understanding. Strengthen the hands of those who defend Israel's borders, its security, and its democracy. Stir in its leaders devotion to the principles of liberty, of justice, of equality, and compassion. Open the minds and the hearts of its inhabitants to one another. May they turn to one another in understanding, in dignity, and in love. Then shall its light truly shine among the nations, and its boughs, like the olive branch, spread far in splendor, bringing life to all who sit under their shade. May I ask that you rise for Hatikva, page 374.
Oh,
So we have a reason to celebrate. And he doesn't know it right now, but I'm going to call him up to the bima, Jerry Odelsberg, if you'll join us up here. I don't know if you know this, Jerry, but we have a very crack investigative team here at Stephen Wise Temple. And through that and other clandestine methods, which I can't reveal to you, we found out that November 3rd, 1948 was a special day in your life.
It was.
It was your?
My birthday.
75th birthday today. And while that was one important date, I also found something else. There was a second important date that we found with a great deal of effort, December 30th, 1986. Do you know why that date was so important?
No idea.
That was the date Jerry joined Stephen Wise Temple. Oh. So 37 years ago, you joined Stephen Wise Temple. There's been a lot of moments of celebration and a lot of moments of challenge that we all go through life. But how wonderful that you and Lori are here every Shabbat that we can celebrate together. And so you might imagine we brought our finest Manischewitz out for you in honor of your birthday. We'll ask you all to rise and join us for the kiddush. You'll find it on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav ve'atzav banu v'shabbat kodsho Ve'ahava u'ratzon hilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit Ki hu yom tehillah lemicha'e kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim Ki Ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'vratzon Inhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Shabbat L'chaim, L'chaim.
Mazel tov, happy birthday. We're going to continue with Aleinu L'Shabach and page 282. And Ruby said she'd help me open the ark.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated. Thank you, Ruby. Big help. Our prayer of memory is found on page 294. But first, a poem from Chana Sinish on 291 that reminds us of how those souls who have touched our soul, even long, long after they're gone, their light still shines. Yesh kochavim she'oram magia arza, rak kasher hem atzmam avdu ve'enam. There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. If you're in a period of Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days of mourning, which is actually all of us probably, you can rise and say the name of a loved one. This is the first year of mourning the loss of a loved one. Please rise and say that person's name.
My brother Richard Ackerman.
And if this is the yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise and feel free to share that person's name aloud. I'll invite you all to rise in solidarity with our mourners as we say thank you to God for the gift of life itself on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, bi'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mivarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah barichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav Uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace for us here on earth, for us and all Israel and all humanity. And we say together, amen. And we're going to conclude with Oseh shalom. And you can stay standing if you like. If you want, you can put your book down and put your arm around the person next to you. I want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight and everybody who joined us online. Thank you so much to our unbelievable musicians. We're so grateful to you all, to Lital and to Lisa and to our incredible choir and our incredible band. Thank you so much, Meredith, Ann, Greg, and Matt, and of course, Yaron, Larry, and Jeff, and our director of music, Dr. Tali Tadmore. We are just grateful that you're all here. Rabbi Wasnika, thank you. And Cantor Emma, thanks for putting this beautiful, beautiful service together. And most of all, I want to thank Ruby for helping me on the door there. Could not have done it without her. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. Torah study tomorrow morning at 8:45. Please keep your eyes on our Eyes on Wise and our daily Kavanah, because we have lots of things coming up. We hope to see you every Shabbat, whether you join us online or right here. We can bring together that sense of shalom. We ask God for with our concluding song.
May the one who makes peace in